Linda Ronstadt is a legendary musician and performer who began entertaining audiences in the mid-60s. Over the span of her multi-decade career, she's won a slew of awards, including 11 Grammys, 2 Academy of Country Music Awards, an Emmy, and many more. She has multiple albums that have gone gold and some that have gone platinum and multi-platinum, and yet her career came to a screeching halt in 2009 after suffering from a mysterious ailment for several years. It was only after seeing a multitude of doctors and experts that she was diagnosed with progressive supranuclear palsy, a rare disease that has similarities to Parkinson's. Keep watching as Facts First presents Linda Ronstadt comes clean about her career-ending disease. Linda's initial health issues. In 2000, Linda Ronstadt began to notice something was off when she tried to sing. She likened it to only being able to hear the high end of her voice, but somehow couldn't hear the mid and lower ranges that provided the true pitch of the tones. She was in the recording studio at the time, so as she sang into a microphone, she was wearing headphones to be able to hear the music as well as her own voice. So she naturally assumed there was something wrong with the headphones. This was a reasonable assumption given that Ronstadt was a star singer and world-renowned performer. She had no reason to think her voice was the thing giving out. And yet, sadly, it was her voice that was the issue, not the headphones. Flash forward to 2009, when Linda was giving what she instinctively knew would be her final live performance. She had been having consistent issues with her voice, and they'd been growing steadily worse. Her experience was her throat would feel like it was cramping up, and she couldn't get the full notes to sound. Her final show was in San Antonio, and it featured songs from an album of hers called Canciones de mi Padre. The album was a way for Linda to pay tribute to her Mexican heritage. However, when she got on stage, she realized she barely had the capacity to sing many songs at all. She ended up relying heavily on the mariachi band backing her up at the time, having them sing a majority of the songs. By the end of the night, Linda knew she was done. Her road to a diagnosis. And yet Linda's road to a diagnosis was far from simple. She presumed her issues stemmed from a pinched nerve at first, so she waited for it to heal. As the symptoms became progressively worse, she abandoned that theory. She then thought it was due to longer-lasting effects from a surgery she had had on her shoulder. Then when that no longer seemed realistic, she wondered if it was the result of a tick bite she had received. But eventually things got so bad, she knew she had to seek out guidance from specialists. Even so, she still expected a fairly rosy prognosis, thinking doctors would agree with her presumption that she had a pinched nerve or something of that ilk in her neck. But they came back with a much more serious answer. They told her she most likely had Parkinson's disease. Linda was understandably devastated. She announced her diagnosis in public in 2013 and received an outpouring of support from friends, family, and her millions of fans. She said she'd been diagnosed almost a year before the announcement, and her loss of muscle control, a common component of Parkinson's, was to blame for her lack of ability to sing anymore. However, Linda's diagnosis wasn't finished with its progression, because 6 years later, after doctors had more data to work with, they revised their diagnosis. They said in 2019 that Ronstadt doesn't actually have Parkinson's, but that she has progressive supranuclear palsy. It should be noted the two diseases have remarkably similar symptoms, so it's not surprising they initially misdiagnosed her. Progressive supranuclear palsy. Progressive supranuclear palsy is a degenerative brain disease that mimics many of the symptoms of Parkinson's. These include things like difficulty moving the eyes, loss of balance, or general impairment of cognition. And like Parkinson's, there's no known cure for progressive supranuclear palsy. It slowly erodes certain portions of the brain and is quite rare. It's said to affect around 6 people out of every 100,000. The cause of the disease hasn't been identified yet, though scientists have discovered it has something to do with having too much of a particular protein, tau protein, in the brain. Reportedly, while there isn't a cure, medicine used for Parkinson's can be effective in slowing down its effects over time. Before we tell you more about Linda Ronstadt and her tragic disease, be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. Linda deals with the disease every day. Linda Ronstadt's experience with progressive supranuclear palsy hasn't simply been a difficulty with singing. As tends to happen with this disease, her ability to move at a normal speed and with normal dexterity has become severely limited. Because of her new issues with motor control, she now has trouble with even basic everyday activities. In an interview with Anderson Cooper, Ronstadt admitted that even things most people take for granted as being easy are quite difficult for her, like taking a shower or brushing her teeth. But that doesn't mean she's given up. She likens her latest phase of life to being a toddler again. By that, she means she's been forced to relearn how to do things, almost from scratch. She says she's forced to find new and creative ways to accomplish basic tasks due to her inability to move normally. She said that in particular, eating was one of the hardest challenges to relearn. But she reported that if you give yourself time, work hard, and are patient, you can essentially create a new map of your brain that will allow you to relearn and accomplish these basic activities. Singing helped with family politics. Linda has long been a political activist and has always leaned to the left side of the political spectrum. But like many people, she has relatives who are on the other side. For years, Linda found that singing with them was an excellent way to bridge the political gap. She says that for years when she'd get together with those relatives, instead of talking or arguing over politics, they'd simply sing together, and that always meant they would have a great time. So she's understandably frustrated that she isn't able to use that tool as a way to bond with family members she might disagree with. She points out that one of the most difficult things for someone suffering with a degenerative brain disorder that affects movement is to perform repetitive motions, and singing out loud is exactly that. In recent years, Ronstadt admits to having to be careful when she's around those same family members she used to sing along with. But she still insists everyone sing together. But nowadays, instead of acting as one of the lead vocals, she says she prefers to be in the corner, humming along instead of singing out loud. Linda's life today. While Linda is retired from performing, she's still enjoying her life to the best of her abilities. She spends most of her time at home and leans on family to support her. She says her disability makes her need to lie down a lot, but that she tries to use that time to read and listen to music. She does have issues with her eyesight starting to go, so eventually she might have to resort to only listening to music. In an interview with The New Yorker, Ronstadt said she still hears music constantly in her head, even if she can't sing it. And she says she can hear the parts that she would be singing, as she also imagines the accompaniment playing along with her. She said those tunes in her head are usually from other artists, and she doesn't find herself thinking about or listening to her own songs. And when she's not doing that, she's actively seeking out music online. She has a deep passion for music still, and loves finding new sources of performances, like NPR's Tiny Desk concerts or random YouTube music channels. Now it's time to hear from you. What are some of your favorite songs from Linda Ronstadt? Let us know in the comments section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Factsverse if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.